Today we're going to be reading from the book of Joshua. Joshua isn't a book that we read from very often in church, but it's the sixth book in the Bible. It comes after the book of Deuteronomy, and the book of Deuteronomy ends with this great man Moses who led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt up to this tall mountain called Mount Nebo. And when I was in Israel, they took us up to one of these mountains. They said, this is probably where Mount Nebo was. And when you look out, you can see all of the promised land. And so Moses sees all of the promised land, and then he dies without ever going into the promised land. And so we pick up the book of Joshua, and Moses has died, and now what is going to happen is God talks to Joshua and gives him a commission. And as we listen to these words being read, I want you to pay attention to what God gives Joshua, because in this moment, God gives Joshua something very dear. And so listen for that. What is it that God gives Joshua? After Moses, the Lord's servant, died, the Lord spoke to Joshua, Nun's son. He had been Moses' helper. God said, Moses, my servant Moses is dead. Now get ready to cross over the Jordan with this entire people to the land I'm going to give the Israelites. I'm giving you every place where you set your foot, exactly as I promised Moses. I've commanded you to be brave and strong, haven't I? Don't be alarmed or terrified, because the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. I'm not going to ask you what you heard God give Joshua, because every time I've done that, everyone's like, what was it? What was it? So I'll tell you. It was land, is what God gave Joshua, right? No, it wasn't land, actually, because God didn't plop it down in Joshua's plate and say, here you go, here's the land. What God gave Joshua was a promise. God gave Joshua a promise of land. And for Joshua, that wasn't a promise. It wasn't a promise that kept them moving through the book of Joshua and all they went through. What moved Joshua through everything they went through was a dream. It was a dream that promise would be complete, that promise would one day come true. A couple of months ago, I met a little boy, and he was sitting maybe about right here, row 2 or 3 in the pews. He was probably 4 or 5. And while he was sitting there the whole service, and Woody was playing the organ, and this little boy was bouncing up and down in his pew. And he was craning his neck trying to see Woody, and when the service ended, he ran over there and got on the organ, and he started playing with the organ. And he said, I want to be an organ player when I grow up. And I thought, I have heard a lot of dreams, but an organ player, wow. And I hate Woody's not here for us to make fun of him, an organ player for a dream. Now, my younger brother wanted to be a skateboarding janitor when he grew up. I wanted to be a guitar player in a rock band. Danny's cousin wanted to be a UPS delivery man. That was his dream. And all these dreams are fine. There's nothing wrong with these dreams, but I wonder sometimes if our dreams are a little too small. Because we all have dreams of things we want to do and be when we grow up. And maybe these dreams came true for some of us. Maybe they have changed for some of us. And maybe some of us are still working on those dreams. But we all have dreams. Dreams are a strange and powerful thing. They take hold of us in ways we can't explain. They stir up feelings and emotions. They drive our actions and our beliefs. We have these individual dreams, but we also have dreams as a community and a group of people, dreams that motivate all of us. There once was a man who had a dream, and he put those dreams into words. And this is what he said. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men and women are created equal. I have a dream that one day Sons of former slaves and sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hilltop and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. That was Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. And his dream was contagious. It was a dream that took this country by storm. MLK showed us that dreams change history, that dreams change the world. And over time, we have learned, so do shattered dreams. Over the past 8 or 9 days, I've listened to everything I could about what people have been saying. I've listened to the protests, to people screaming, to people crying, to people physically shaking in anger and rage. I've listened to people pretending they're not upset and as though all this doesn't affect them. I've read the hateful remarks, questioning articles, talked with worried citizens and fearful students. And what I have heard over and over and over again is the same thing in all of those people. In their souls, they are grieving over shattered dreams. People are crying out, "This is not how it was supposed to be." I never dreamed we would fight over statues. I never dreamed of cars driving through crowds of people. I never dreamed of seeing crowds of men my age walking with torches screaming, "Jews will not replace us." I never had a dream about all this hate. But I have had those nightmares. This is not about statues, my friends. It's about broken dreams. The rage and the anger and the chaos that is happening come from people's dreams being shattered. Many of us who are white thought that the civil rights movement brought us into the promised land. We thought now that segregation is over and black people can vote, there is justice and equality. We thought we had a black president. Surely fear, hatred, intolerance, marginalization, oppressive racism, all of it, it no longer exists. That's what we thought. People thought we were living in the promised land, and people have woken up to the nightmare that we are still in Egypt. And that's no surprise. When you look at the data, when you look at the studies, it says that 75% of white people in America have 0 black friends. 0 black friends. The number is not much more encouraging when it comes to black people. No wonder this country is suffering. Does it sound like desegregation? It doesn't to me. No wonder we're going through so much turmoil. We don't understand each other because we don't know each other. It's not about statues. These statues are not breaking open old wounds. These statues are forcing us to realize that we have never stopped the bleeding to begin with. And I must ask if these statues of dead people have become idols that we crafted with our own hands, in which we fight over and kill, offering people like Heather Heyer as a sacrifice to the nightmares of our past, in hopes they will leave us alone. No, we haven't made it to the promised land yet. Our dreams are shattered, and shattered dreams can destroy worlds. We must learn how to dream again. The whole Bible is about a covenant. From beginning to end, this is about a covenant that God made with a man named Abraham. And in that covenant, God promises him that he will have tons of descendants and that they will bless all people. And ever since that time, this promise has been passed down from person to person to person. It gets passed down from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob to Joseph in Egypt. It is taken up by Moses, who leads the people out of Egypt. And now in our text today, it is being passed on to Joshua. It's not just a promise, though. It's more than that. It is the dream. A dream that has been passed down through history. A dream that we will be a blessing to each other. It is a dream that continues to pass from one person to another, from Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King Jr. to you and I. And I know it's true because I also have a dream. I have a dream that no church ever tells my siblings again that interracial marriage is a sin. I have a dream that my white sister, who is now married to my black brother-in-law, I have a dream that they can feel accepted and loved everywhere they go instead of being stared at and rejected and shunned. I have a dream that my black goddaughter is loved by everyone as much as I love her. I have a dream that one day this violence and anger and hatred stops. Not because we sweep it under the rug, but because we face it head on. We confess the sins of the past, and we find intentional ways to heal our lives and move forward together into the future. I have a dream, and though many people think it's foolish or impossible, I don't let go of it because I know from where this dream comes. It comes from the great dream weaver. It comes from the one who has stitched us together and woven us together in ways too wonderful to understand. It comes from the one who calls us to love. It comes from the one who plants a burning desire in each of us that this dream would come true. And I know that you have the same dream, because that dream has been woven into the very fabric of the universe. It is a dream that has been woven into every heart and soul. It is a dream that is crying out in all of creation. I don't know what that means for statues or flags or all of that stuff. But I know what it means for my soul. It means there is work to be done. There are people who need love. There are prayers that must be prayed. There are dreams that must be revived. There is hope that must be shared. And it is all going to come true. We have a dream. God says to Joshua, every place you go, I have given to you. It is assured. There is no doubt. There is no question. Any marches of Nazis or white supremacists, any hate crimes committed, any unjust laws that continue to harm the marginalized and oppressed, these things do not and cannot stop the dream that has been woven into the world and creation itself. These things do not stop the equality and justice that all of creation is crying out about. These things cannot stop what the dream weaver has already woven. And we must remember that we are a part of that dream. God says, wherever the sole of your foot treads, it will be given. We have a responsibility to go. We have a responsibility to put our feet and bodies in places that help this dream live on. Now, some of you are thinking, Joshua. I know why the book of Joshua isn't read in church. It's because Joshua is a violent book, and it is. It's a book where the Israelites go and kill and take land from other people. And if you want to talk more about those details and work through that stuff, we don't have time to do that this morning. But come to Wednesday night worship in September, because we love talking about that stuff, and we will work through it together. But here right now, let it be said today that violence is not acceptable. Jesus taught against violence and lived out nonviolence, allowing himself to be killed without a fight. And as Christians, we are called to be nonviolent as well. But that does not mean there is not conflict and conquest in the Promised Land. That's exactly what the book of Joshua is about, conflict and conquest. There will always be conflict as we strive to live out the dream of equality and justice. And there will always be conquest as we defeat our enemies with our willingness to repeatedly love them over and over and over again until we conquer them with love. So where are you putting your feet? Where are you putting your body? How are you living out the dream that the dream weaver has woven so deeply inside of you? When MLK marched to Birmingham, he was thrown into jail. In response to his march, 8 white clergy wrote him a letter condemning his actions and telling him that he should be more patient and wait. And he wrote a letter back. And this was his response. First, I must confess that over the last few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I have almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in the stride toward freedom is not the white citizen's counselor or the Ku Klux Klanner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice, who constantly says, I agree with you in the goal you seek, but I can't agree with you in the methods of direct action, who paternalistically feels he can set the timetable for another man's freedom, who lives by the myth of time and who constantly advises the Negro to wait until a more convenient season. Shallow understanding from people of goodwill is more frustrating than absolute misunderstanding of people of ill will. Lukewarm acceptance is more bewildering than outright rejection. We have a role to play in this. There's no sitting on the fence, because if you're sitting on the fence, you've already played a role. By ignoring this, we do more harm to ourselves and to others. We must take a stand and believe in the dream. Last Monday, August 14th, was the day the Episcopal Church remembered Jonathan Daniels. He was a 29-year-old white seminary student from Cambridge, Massachusetts. He joined the march from Selma to Montgomery with MLK and many others. And it was there, as he was housed by black families, his life was transformed. And by his life being transformed, our very country was transformed. And he wrote about some of that experience. And this is what he said. Bunny sat astride my knee. She is 4, the youngest of 11. It would have been 12, but there wasn't room for a premature black baby in the white hospital. She smiled, yet there was a hesitancy in her eyes. Her daddy smiled down at her and asked, "Do you love John?" Quietly but firmly, Bunny said, "No." We had lived with Bunny's family only a few days, and I was sure I knew what she meant. A part of me seemed to die inside, and I fought back tears. But there was nothing I could say, nothing I could do. Wisely, her daddy, who was already a very dear friend, did not pursue the matter. When a few days later, Bunny pulled me down to her, cupped my face with her tiny hands, and kissed me, I knew something very important and incredibly beautiful had happened. Something we in the church call a sacrament. That experience transformed his life. It transformed his heart and soul. And when MLK called people to come back to Alabama, because the law said black people could vote, but black people were being denied votes, Jonathan came back. And he marched and he protested, and he was arrested and thrown in jail with everybody else. And for 6 days, they were put in cells with no AC and toilets that overflowed onto the floor. And then out of nowhere, they were released. No one posted bail. They were released, and so they walked out. And 4 of them, Jonathan, a white friend, and 2 black friends, walked to the market to buy drinks for everyone. And it was there that Tom Coleman stopped them with a shotgun. And when he fired, Jonathan shielded 17-year-old African-American Ruby Sales, and he died instantly. His life was transformed by those relationships. He believed in the dream, and by living into them, he made it a reality for us. Because 40 days after he was killed, the man who shot him was acquitted by an entirely white jury who shook his hand as he left the building. And this launched a campaign and lawsuits that ended the exclusion of blacks and women from juries, changing the course of the American court system forever. So it was no longer just white men who had the power, but spreading it out, making it more equal. By believing in the dream and living into it, Jonathan has helped us move one step closer to the promised land. Last week, I was talking with a church member, and she said I was on the campus of Pfeiffer College when the KKK was having a meeting. And so I went to the meeting to see what it was like. And while she was sitting there in the midst of the KKK, they learned that MLK had been shot and killed. And the response from the Grand Dragon was good riddance. You can kill a person, but you cannot kill this dream. This dream cannot and will not die. Next year will mark 50 years since MLK was killed. And there's an urgency in the air. Do you feel it? An urgency that says we must be doing more to bridge the racial divide. We must be doing more to enter into the promised land together. This Wednesday night at 7:30, the communities of Davidson and Cornelius, the faith communities, will be coming together on the green in Davidson to pray for Charlottesville, for all the anger and all the hate and all the wrong that's going on in the world, the justice and the inequality. And at the end of that prayer vigil, we're going to invite people to sign up for small groups. Not small groups like you see at church. These are intentional, hand-picked small groups where white people will be placed with black people, who will be placed with Hispanic people, who will be placed with men and women, older and younger. These groups will be handcrafted to build relationships, so people get to know each other. So we learn more about what it means to enter the promised land together than what it means to enter the promised land separately. Because there is work that needs to be done. There is healing that needs to happen in our own hearts and souls. And there are dreams that need to be brought back to life. We need dreamers, heirs to the great dream weaver. I don't know if you saw the video of the eclipse that happened almost 40 years ago. The anchor at the close said, the next eclipse will be in August 2017. And I pray it's over a world of peace. We haven't made it there yet. But my eyes have seen the glory of the promised land. And we are on our way. Hold on to that dream. This isn't to guilt anyone. This isn't to shame anyone. This isn't to do any of that. This is to say our work is not done. There is still work to be done, and the best critique of the bad is to do better. And so in all the ways we may have failed, God calls us to our best selves to do better, to take our feet and our bodies where maybe we would never have gone before, and to enter into that promised land. This is our dream. Let us pray. God, we give you thanks for dreams, for how you have worked these dreams into our hearts and souls and into this country. Would you challenge us and push us and guide our feet so we may walk places we wouldn't normally go, to sit in seats we wouldn't normally sit, to have conversations that may make us sweat because we're so used to not having them. Call us to our best selves. Call us to be dreamers who dream of this great land, this promised place that you give to us. We lift all this up to you in your name, praying the prayer that Jesus taught as we say, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who have trespassed against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. And now as we stand together and sing, we're going to sing the prayer we have all been praying this week. Let there be peace on earth. Let's stand together, hymn 431. May you go from this place pursuing the peace that is not discomfort, but the peace that is filled with tension, because that is the peace that brings us to the promised land. May God guide your feet and lead you to unexpected places as we dream together. Amen.